period when she worked in New York, starring in the Broadway play The Pleasure of His Company. While other cast members went off to the country on their days off, Dolores had no retreat of her own, until a friend suggested an abbey in Connecticut that had a guest house outside the cloistered grounds. Her first reaction, having been a Catholic schoolgirl, was one thing.
And I said, oh, I do not want to go to see more nuns.
When she visited there, it was another thing altogether.
The very first moment I put my foot on the ground, I knew something was different here. And I felt that I'm going to be back here sometime.
It was a community where there was continuity, where its members didn't break up after 8 or 10 weeks of work and go their own ways again. It took more than 3 years and several other visits before Dolores Hart, now engaged to be married, believed she was drawn not just to the emotional comfort, but to a calling.
When she was there at the Abbey, I cooled it, and I thought, she's coming back to me. She's coming back to me.
One of Hollywood's top fashion designers, Edith Head, had already made her wedding dress. So Don Robinson was taken completely off guard when Dolores returned one night with a decision.
And then we sat down. It was a very crowded restaurant. And she was going through her spiritual exercises that she had performed at the Abbey. And all of a sudden I said to her, are you telling me that you're going to enter the Abbey? And she said, yes, son, I am. Well, I actually broke down crying. I couldn't believe it.
Did it feel like a rejection, or was it something else?
I never felt it was a rejection to me. I never have felt that at that time.
In fact, Robinson did all he could to support her decision, which was kept quiet at first. And so one of the most extraordinary moments came in conjunction with Dolores' starring role in the movie Come Fly With Me, which was then going into release. MGM asked her to promote it, and she told them she wanted to visit friends in the country. She was 24.
So they said, well, we would drive you up to your country home. So they brought me up in the studio limo.
They brought you here on the very day that you entered.
So they zipped me up, and that was what kind of fun, wasn't it? God has a sense of humor, doesn't he? I mean, he's really a gentleman.
Now, you know there were rumors when you came here that you'd had Elvis Presley's love child.
Well, it is aggravating and hurtful also, because it was really such a fine relationship. And then the second thing was that I thought if anybody knew me, I mean, I was just too Catholic.
Producer Hal Wallace, with whom Dolores had signed a 7-year contract, was furious.
Hal said, don't try to get a job, because I won't, if you try to get a job, I won't let you work anyway. And he was just mad as hell.
Dolores' family was just as stunned. Her grandmother tried to be understanding.
That there was an amazing sense of, oh, Dee, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? You are making a decision up against something that you've been given, 1 out of 1,000,000 people. Do you realize what you're doing?
Was there ever a time when, as a postulant, you had doubts about staying here?
Like about 5 or 6 times a day.
Really?
I mean, it was terrible. I'm serious. It was not easy. And I think the first 7 years was a very, very difficult transition.
She was a quintessential movie star, but she was ill-prepared for the daily, disciplined ebb and flow of life here, where even the iron for the choir gates in the Abbey's church was forged within the community. The pottery from which they eat and drink is fired here. As a postulant, Dolores went into a garden where she was warned that if she planted a seed upside down, it would grow into the ground, and she believed it.
Well, of course, they had really a great laugh on me on that one, because I came from the city, and I really thought the seed did grow upside down. it was a long road to come to find what the vows of being really Benedictine are about. And that doesn't come from being a movie star.
All of the nuns here, once they have made their final vows, are addressed as Mother. And after the passage of season after season, year after year, Mother Dolores's performing talents have also been put to use. Her voice is on a compact disc recording of chants called Recordare that the Abbey sells to help raise money. It is a quiet and peaceful performance, and so far away from the one she dreamed she would give. In Los Angeles, where he went on to immense success in real estate, Don Robinson has never married. He continues to visit Mother Dolores at the Abbey each year and says their love sustains itself. It just went a different way.
We have grown together like we would have in our marriage. We've always been there for one another. We've never ceased.
And how would you describe the love that you've felt? If it wasn't the love of husband and wife, how has that love developed?
I've always felt that it's God's will. We have a will, but God has a stronger will. And it was his decision to lead her down that path. And I mean, she's my life. If you define Don Robinson, Dolores will be there in that definition.
In these last few years, her health has declined. She suffers from a nerve condition that sometimes has left her in extreme pain. And even though she clearly made a choice to be here, it was not a choice to abandon who she was. After all those years, it is still a part of her.
My first conscious experience of myself was to be an actress. And I had struggled with this call to vocation all my life. This is not something that you decide that you're going to do. A vocation is a call from God. And I can understand why people have doubts, because who understands God? I don't. And when you're dealing with something at this level, you are dealing with mystery. The more I have lived into this life, the more I am aware that it's an absolute gift.
A gift. By the way, after all these years, Mother Dolores is still a member of the Motion Picture Academy, but she hasn't been able to vote for the Oscar winners since she couldn't leave the Abbey to see the films. Now, however, because of videotapes and DVDs,